Alright, so the controls for switches for the voltage peak to peak settings are actually in this cage right here, but they've got all of these holes here, and I can see these are the wafer style contacts like I showed you on the other side. They're just larger ones, and it's a stack of looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 on each one. So I'm just gonna spray the stuff in there, the cleaner in there, and work those controls. That should do it. Oh, actually, there's one way up in the front there. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's actually 5, 6 stacks. And then in the back here, there's a potentiometer, which is for this this calibration control. But I'm not going to be able to get that one because it's from the back side, I don't think. But I'm more concerned about these anyways. And these look like they're two-sided. So I gotta make sure I get it from both sides. And one way up in the front there, I'm not gonna be able to get the front side of it. Alright. So let me just see whether or not that actually made a difference. So what I'm going to do is compare it to the other one, which I didn't clean yet. Plug it back in. See how much better that is now? I'm not getting all that erratic behavior between switching from one to the next. So, alright, I'll take care of channel B, and then we'll try and clean up this faceplate a little bit more and then start buttoning this thing up. Well, this Durtex stuff is working pretty well. This area I already cleaned. You can see this area I cleaned, and you can see this is actually the white foaminess. I just sprayed the stuff on there. I'm just letting it sit for a little bit and then wiping, and it's coming right off. It's cleaning up nicely. Taking all that tobacco staining right off. I think that's gonna do it. How? That metal's sharp in the corner there. Alright, clean up the outer case some more and then put it back on. Alright, well, no matter how much I try and clean this side here, there's some dinginess in there that just doesn't want to come out. There's a stain of something here. And then on this other side, side here, there's these brown streaks or stains or whatever. They're not coming out, but the front, the most important part in the front here, cleaned up well, which is the plastic screen for the LCD. In fact, it doesn't even look like there's a screen there. It's so clean where the LCD is. Bottom one still looks a little foggy, but that's because the back side, there's an airspace between where, you know, the CRT is and the back of that screen, and over time smoke, haze has built up on that. So it's important that I clean this back side. You can actually see it really well there. Alright, so there's the screen cleaned up. Came out good. And I also cleaned down the inside of the cabinet because that was just coated with a pretty thick layer of dust and dirt. And you know, if I had some electro wash or a similar type of cleaner like that, I might actually clean off the PC boards and that, but I don't, so I'm going to leave that alone on the main chassis there. I did do a little bit of research last night, found out that a lot of my old friends, as far as chemicals go, are still available. Don't know if the newest versions of them are much different, you know, how much they've changed the formulation over the year, but there's a company called, I think, CAIG that makes deoxit, and they have a couple different formulations, and those are all still available. Chemtronics is still in business. They're making the Tuna Wash still, and the Electro Wash, along with their other complement of chemicals for the industry. So that's kind of interesting to find that. I was shocked to see that, you know, they're averaging around $20 a can for the Tuna Wash, and we used to go through a lot of that. We used to buy that by the case. And then Electro Wash, same thing. Deoxit, a couple different formulations they have, and depending on what formulation you get, you can get that for anywhere near like 12 or 13 bucks a can to $20 a can. And of course the other thing is shipping. If you know, can find somebody who's going to ship it for free, that's good. But it's out there, and Deoxit still has a pretty good rating. And then they even have some other chemicals in their line that are geared towards very specific controls. They have one that looks like it's just for fader controls on mixing boards and stuff. And even like Guitar Center, I think, sells Deoxit, so on their website. But I think it's actually cheaper to buy it through Amazon or one of those other vendors. So if you're interested in those type of contact cleaners, feel free to check those out. I don't know why I just did a commercial for them. They don't give me anything. Okay, let's put this together. Well, I'm not going to mess with it anymore, but that's basically kind of an overview of the SC61 Waveform Analyzer by Sencore. So if you're looking for a cheap oscilloscope that's got some pretty neat functionality to it, you might want to try and find a good used SC61. I haven't checked. Matter of fact, I'll have to check when I go upstairs, and maybe when I'm editing this video I'll put on screen just a couple of prices that I've seen realized for this. I'll also get the correct model number for the one that replaced, again, this was the SC61, then there was the SC61A, I think, replaced this, and then I want to say, I think they did have an SC80 that was short-lived. I want to say that had like a white case on it, but it was the same shape as this, and that was a short run, and then they came out with their newest model, which was shorter this way and a little bit wider, because they changed their entire, then they came out with a whole series of equipment that was all that shape, so it could almost be, not really rack mounted, but also on the Sencore stuff, I wanted to say, well, let me show you a couple other things. Alright, so as far as my favorite pieces of Sencore gear that they've ever made, Sencore very early on introduced an early capacitance and inductance tester called the Z meter. They dubbed it the Z meter, and over the years they made several improvements to it, and this particular one I have right here in front of me also came out of that same situation, so it's probably not in the greatest of shape. I did notice it does power up. This is the Z meter 2. The LC75 is the model number if you wanted to search for one online. I don't remember what series this was replaced with, but I do know that I have an LC102 Z meter, which was a very big improvement over this one as far as it was much more automated. This is a great analyzer. Anyways, you know, you can get a capacitance checker that will tell you the value of a capacitor. And you can even get a capacitance checker that might also tell you the leakage of a capacitor. But this will go as far as to also test something called ESR, which is equivalent series resistance of a capacitor, which the cheaper no frills units never had that ability. This also, let's see, on the newer one, the LC102 or 103, I forget, the 102, they added dielectric absorption as another testable feature, which I never really found that to be that critical in the work that I was doing. But then I think that was replaced by the LC103, maybe. But the pinnacle top of the line Z meter was crazy money when it came out. And even online, these Z meters still bring decent money because they're just so versatile. Sure, maybe nobody's doing the kind of consumer electronic repair much anymore. We're in a throwaway society. However, I don't care what type of electronics work you are doing. If you're doing any servicing, whether or not you're working on early tube radios or, solid state electronics from the 70s, which, the vintage audio equipment that's becoming so popular now with collectors, this is just a great thing to own to do that kind of work. So I've got the LC102 or the 103, I forget which one. I've got the second to the last version that they came out with this up in my office. And it actually still works, but it has an auto calibration feature which isn't working. I'm getting an error reading. And I thought it was the test leads, but I bought brand new test leads for it and it still does it. So there's something else going on there. And I don't know if I'm ever going to bother getting that fully repaired. I probably should sell one of these since they still command some money. The LC102, the Auto Z meter, I think they called it. That's the one that's worth more, but like I said, mine's got a problem. But it would probably still bring more money on eBay than this LC75 would. And for my purposes, this LC75 is more than adequate. Another piece of equipment, I'm not going to haul it out because it's kind of stuck in there, but that's the PR57 Power Right. That is a combination isolation transformer, variac, and volt and current meter, and AC leakage meter all in one. So basically what they did was, it was commonplace to use isolation transformers on workbenches in the consumer electronics repair industry to isolate television chassis from the earth ground. And then variacs were very popular, which is basically just a large auto transformer or rheostat that allowed you to slowly ramp up the AC voltage on anything you had plugged into it. So, you could control how much voltage was going into it. So if you had a circuit that you wanted to run at lower voltage, if it would tolerate it, you could. And what they did was then they incorporated a large meter in this thing, which allows you to measure current. That came out of the same shop. That suffered a bit of damage, electrical damage, a while ago, which caused the meter to misread. So what ended up happening there is probably one of the shunt resistors in the meter circuit has changed value. So what we had to do was, instead of repairing it, we never got around to repairing it, we just put another voltmeter on there to monitor the voltage. And then, of course, now it's been sitting and it had the same problem where it was in that damp environment. So, eventually maybe I'll get around to cleaning that up so that I can use them. Eventually I want to set up another bench with just my electrical and electronic troubleshooting equipment on it. And the last piece of Sencore equipment I'll mention, if you're ever come across one, is the, I believe it was the PA81 or PA80 Power Amplifier Analyzer. Sencore decided to get into to get some more equipment made for their audio servicing technicians, guys who were servicing a lot of audio. And I actually had the sales rep come and demo that, and we didn't end up buying it at the time. I think it was $2,000 when it was new, and we passed on that. There was actually two units. There was I think it was called the SG something, maybe the SG80, which stood for stereo generator. So, and basically what that did was that could generate RF and IF signals in FM stereo for basically doing front-end tuner work on audio equipment. Receivers, we never really had a use for that. We were able to do without that. So that that kind of fell by the wayside. But the PA81 power amplifier analyzer, that thing, that was really cool. That was ahead of its time. It had built-in dummy loads that I forgot how many watts you could drill into this thing. And so what you could do essentially was you could run a big power amplifier into this thing, listen to the audio signal at a very low level, so you weren't blaring out shop speakers that, were basically waking the dead. But, listening to it at near full rated power, and had built-in watt meters. It had built-in a lot of circuit sensing and everything to let you know if there was DC voltage present, and it would, go into protect mode. It was just a pretty snazzy thing. And those are still pretty sought after. When they pop up, they still bring decent money last time I checked. And that's understandable because, again, you've got a lot of that vintage 70s audio equipment out there that is becoming highly collectible now, and people are rebuilding those and having work done on them, and so there's a little cottage industry of guys that just work on that kind of stuff, and that's a hell of a nice piece of equipment to have to work on some of those old amplifiers. Again, I never ended up buying one, but I saw it demoed firsthand and was quite happy with the way it worked. So that's pretty much it. That's all I've got to say about the Sencore. The Z meter, the power right, the scopes, and the power amplifier analyzer are pretty much your best pieces of equipment that Sencore ever made, in my opinion. The PR57 power right, I think that was replaced by something too, but I can't remember what. I think that the improvement they made there was they gave you a second meter. I think it had 2 analog meters, so you could simultaneously look at voltage and current. Whereas on the PR57, you just pushed a button and it changed from voltage to current. All right, so probably the next time you'll see this scope is when I decide to go back to messing around with that stupid Dynamic Research DRO PC board, which I should know better and just trash the thing, but I can't resist.